It's gonna be up here on this bar where they can see it, rather than trying to pass it from seat to seat back here. Tiffany, please come up here, and, don't have anyone who's coming. Explain, they have a price, I believe.
They do.
Spelled out on here.
They do.
Tell us where we are.
In your packet, you have got a quote from Game Time. We have several other quotes as well, but Game Time's what I'm choosing from because this is the book that we have and the rep that we've met with for the $32,000. But I wanted to show you guys what we're talking about getting. So if y'all want to, I have highlighted and marked in the pages the picnic tables that we're considering, the benches that we're considering, the trash cans with a dome lid that is on there as well. And then this is actually the cantilever umbrella that would be put into the ground right outside the fence. But you could put 2 picnic tables under one. We've got 2 quoted on there. We would love to be able to space those out to provide more picnic tables and more shade in the additional concrete area that we have up in the splash pad. But I wanted you guys to see this so that you knew what we were talking about for this entire quote that we have. It's also part of, and I think Tiffany can probably help talk about it as well, but it's an Omni Partners contract, an Omnia Partners contract. So that's something that's well recognized in the state of Alabama, so that it doesn't have to necessarily go out for a bid.
Yes, cooperative purchasing contract, so we set up to 15,000 before we realized that this was cooperative purchasing. So if you want to go ahead and, purchase all the items.
It doesn't have
to be bid.
Doesn't have to be bid.
But I wanted to leave this up there for y'all, so if you wanted to look at it, and then obviously everything that's in here has the opportunity to match the colors of the splash pad, which is the idea that I was going for, to make sure that all of the water items that you have out there, whether they're red, blue, or green, we can match it with this, and then all of this can be a thermoplastic material so that they're not getting burned, you're not sliding off because you're soaking wet, we're not picking bathing suits, we're, all the things. So, but if y'all want to take a look at that, please do, and I'll step out of your way, and then let me know if you have any questions.
I talked with Julie, we need to finish this project. It just seems to keep hanging over our head. We need to finish this project. And her suggestion was, let's bite the bullet, go ahead and do it. So it's totally up to you guys, is how you want to do it.
Oh, thank you.
8 weeks, he said we could push 6, but if he doesn't want to say 6, then it'd be 8. So 8 weeks.
Maybe by July.
Yes, sir. And that's the good thing is they are what we would call local because they're in Fort Payne, Alabama.
Okay.
Everything else is gonna be shipped in, so that's somewhere where I think we are a little bit more cost effective using this company.
Cheryl, our target date was to try to open this by June 1, but we won't have this in at that time.
The gentleman that I've been working with on this seems to think that, and obviously he says that most of the splash pads that they work with do have a day where they just require maintenance or a day off where they're closed. And so if he needed to come in to install the equipment or put the equipment together on that day that we're off, he could do that if we go ahead and open the splash pad. So it wouldn't be where we're having to necessarily shut it down for him to come in and put this.
So all of that could be installed in one day, is that correct?
The cantilever umbrellas, depending on what we do, would probably take 2 days. When we talked about that as well, if it is, let's say we're closed for the splash pad on a Monday, then he would come, pour the concrete for that because it goes into the ground on the backside of the fence, and then the next Monday be able to put up the shade over the top. So, yes, sir.
Any discussion on this?
So we need to spend the rolls on that, right?
If you want to, yes.
Yes.
We're gonna get it by July, we need.
Yes.
Yeah. would have to do that when we get into our meeting time.
One thing the place needs to stop, because we've already kind of been, you know, out there, all we're interested in is the wrong things, where this is the right thing. It does need, you know, people compare it, say, hey, that's what you. Understand that.
Since we're only getting like two benches, are they gonna be, will the parents be able to bring their chairs and also sit, because it's not gonna be enough for the amount of kids that's gonna be out there.
The quantity we have is for 3 benches on the quote, and then 2 of the 6-foot picnic tables. I told him to hold off on one, because he said that we could get 3 under there, and then have 2 of the cantilever umbrellas come over, and we would be able to cover all 3 of those picnic tables with shade, if that's something we wanted to discuss with adding an additional picnic tables. I don't think that it is a very good idea for us to have lawn chairs on the inside of that. I think at some point, someone will probably be sitting with it inside the water. And I think it would end up, being a little bit more of an issue if we were to allow chairs and things to come in to the splash pad. But if we're offering 3 benches that can sit up against, and then some additional picnic tables, we should be good to go. And we are gonna have to discuss at some point a capacity.
Right, because you know how
A
some people,
capacity, yes, sir.
you know how some people will come and, like, if I come there, well, I'm gonna say, I got 3 more people coming, and you know, you want to just, you're trying to save a spot for someone, and I think that's gonna create a problem.
Instead of outside,
If I remember the rules that we went over with Coach, it said no outside lawn chairs brought into the park. I think that was one of the rules that they worked with the place and everything to come up with. That was pretty standard procedure
Yeah, it's
for
not.
a splash pad, because you sit in those chairs, sometimes they have a round thing on them, if you set wrong on the spout or whatever that thing's, it could mess it up, so. I just don't think, I remember that from when we had discussions early on.
I think the capacity thing too is something that you're gonna have to deal with at some point. How many children can you have in there at one time?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of children, at certain ages, and I don't know what age is gonna be on this. But from toddlers up to a
Yes,
certain age,
I would say walking up to probably 10.
10 years old.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but a 10-year-old's not gonna need a parent sitting inside the fence with them.
Not necessarily, but they do need an adult there.
They need to be.
I do not think that we should allow any children into the park without having an adult with them coming through.
I think
That
that's
front
on
area.
there too. That's on the rule board too. No one supervised you.
I remember seeing rules at some point in time, I don't know where
But
they
to
were.
answer Ms. Sucker's question, yes, I do believe that there will be areas to set up on the outside of the fence, you know, for picnics and parties, and I do think it's gonna grow as we grow, and I think that opportunity on the outside of the fence, we do have an area that would suffice.
What will be the hours of operation?
So this is kind of just come under my direction, or I think we're all sharing different parts, so I've been thinking more so frequently about it, but I would like to see us open at 9 or 10 o'clock and then close maybe at 6 o'clock, but that not being an everyday thing. We do need a day where we are closed and then we open on Saturday and potentially maybe even Sunday afternoon from like 1 to 6. But nothing has been set in stone, nothing has really been discussed until we just kind of picked up the project here recently.
Has a fee been set?
No, ma'am. At this time, I do not believe we are having a fee
Yeah,
unless I'm told
I
otherwise.
think our intent is to open this without a fee.
Correct.
And manage this and see how it works for us and how it works for people that are using it too. This is something that we've been long after getting something for our little children, our smaller children. And we got a lot of stuff for older kids. But, we want this to be nice, and I think it will be. A lot of effort, a lot of work put into it, so we'll learn as we get into this as to really how to operate it. We've never operated anything like this. It's my understanding that touch or something is what makes the water come on. Okay, you don't just run out there and turn on a spigot and get the water out of it. It operates by touch, is that correct?
I'm not 100%.
There's a button.
There's a push button somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the council's gonna figure out how to work it, they'll be out there using it. But, what would, any other questions from the council before we move forward and get into a meeting where we can take action on this? Any other questions? Okay. All right. Okay, our agenda items this evening, nothing under old business. New business would be award low bid for the North Bridge Street Culvert Sidewalk Project to Alexander Seal Coating and Striping. Mr. Barrett?
Yes, sir. We received, 2 bids and no bid for the project, that was in your packet, and Alexander was the low bid on that, $41,674.
Okay, and then item 2, ordinance 2023 dash, an ordinance to de-annexing 5.96 acres of real property in section 6, T-17-N, R-19E. This is the first read on this annexation. This is a small piece of property that's down on 231 that has some storage buildings on it. Half of the storage buildings are in the city, within the city limits. Half of them are outside the city in the county. So the request is to de-annex the part that's in the city. Am I correct, Justin, on this?
Yes, sir. These buildings actually sit on 3 different parcels of land. And, Mr. Sessions, who's here tonight, came in and asked, what should we do? So, and not to mention that, but the three parcels of land, one of them is in the county already, and 2 of them are in the city limits. So after we talked with, the county, the easiest thing for Mr. Sessions to do is to de-annex and then go under the county regulations. But that would cause us to lose the 2 storage buildings and the office complex as part of our city limits. So, there's other options to this, but that would be the easiest thing for Mr. Sessions, and that's why we chose that path for now. It's it's not a really easy, there's multiple solutions, and, if we wanted to keep the storage buildings and the office buildings in the city limits, you know, we can come up with a plan to do that, but it's probably gonna take about a year to get it done. Would you agree, Justin?
I mean, so if we keep it and we do a subdivision within the city limits, yeah, it'll go through planning commission, it'll have to have design, it'll have to meet all of our subdivision regulations. It definitely should string it out a little ways. I don't know if it'll go out a whole year, but it's definitely gonna be a little while getting it through.
The county has an administrative plat process.
Yeah, and so Barrett's working at it from the city level, I'm looking at it from the whole thing. There's also gonna be a subdivision from the county property on this too. So we got multiple subdivisions crossing 2 different jurisdictions. So who the rules apply? And so we're trying to simplify it. The easiest way to solve that is let's put it in one jurisdiction and then we got one set of rules to follow. My understanding is that maybe the city is a little hesitant though to just let it go to one jurisdiction, which would be de-annexed to the county. So I guess I kind of want the temperature of the room a little bit as to which direction we need to go. If we want to stick to the plan and just kind of de-annex everything and let the county regs control, we can do that. Or we can come up with some different solutions and try to get with Mr. Sessions and figure out another plan where maybe we can keep some of the commercial property and let the county maintain and have the rural property behind it. So that's kind of what's coming before the council tonight.
The county doesn't have the regulations that the city has on the use of the property. Is this to be continued to be used for these storage buildings? Or the storage buildings coming down and you're developing 5-point-something acres that anything could come in and come on that 5 acres?
No, the storage building is gonna remain. And the 5.9,
Yeah.
this is, it's like rural property there.
All this started was somebody approached Mr. Sessions about buying the storage buildings. So I think the intent is for that, have storage buildings to remain. But the way it sits right now, you can't sell them because they don't sit on their own parcel of land. So that's where this thought process of trying to figure this out began, was how to get Mr. Sessions to get one parcel of land around the storage buildings. If that makes sense.
You mean they don't sit, half of it sits in the city and half of it sits in the county?
Well, that's what well, I don't know how it got that way.
It's one parcel that it sits on.
It's 3 parcels that sit on
It's
the
3 parcels.
Yeah, let me,
And one of them's already a subdivision.
so, let me point this out here. The dark lines here is what they were proposing, okay? This dash line here is a lot. This dash line's a lot, and then this is a lot. So you can see that all those lots intersect in that one building on the south side. So this building right here sits in 3 different parcels today.
What's in the city?
This parcel and this parcel. So the back of the storage building, this parcel right here is in the county today.
Is there any precedence where we?
Explain this one to y'all, I told her on this side. So this,
Where we de-annex.
Have we ever seen that? Well, let them finish.
this is the parcel. This is the large parcel. So that was,
County.
3 parcels, right? They all intersect. This building is sitting on all 3 parcels. This building is sitting on 2 parcels.
This was city.
Parcel 2 and 3
Right
are
on
on here in the city limits. That's,
What's this business? What's this business?
This is a satellite service.
You know what the satellite place is?
It's like they fix satellites or something for TV.
Yeah.
that's, this one now.
Have we done it before?
I think we've done that. And the one we did was down the road from this. And when we annexed all that property, some people opted in, some people opted out, and somewhere along the line created a little island. And then we de-annexed that little island where the lines would be continuous. I have to go back and look, but I think we've done one.
Let me ask you one question.
Yep.
Is city sewer on this property? Or did they choose not to connect?
It's out front now, I don't know if they're connected.
Second time.
This septic tank,
Is it septic on the commercial building?
They chose not to participate in the sewer when we went by there.
Right.
Right.
Here's a scenario, let's suppose that we do approve the, annexed, whatever the word is, and there's a fire It's not in the city limits anymore. Are we gonna respond to the fire? If
Fire district doesn't follow city limits. Police follow city limits. Fire district's larger. Our fire district is 45.
Suppose something gets broken into, they can go down there, so they're gonna never come city, I mean, the county.
It would be county.
Okay, we're still in the work session.
Yeah.
We can't do anything until we get into the business meeting. Any other questions on this ordinance? Okay, and then item 3 this evening is permission to install picnic equipment and splash pads not to exceed.
It says 15,000, but whatever the county.
Yeah, we'll let the council decide what they want to do on that once we get into the meeting. Item 4, permission to install stop sign at Tallahassee and Alabama Street intersection. That's in your district? Okay. Okay. So we'll call the,
No, we're just, it's a request. Just a request of 4-way. It's a 2-way stop right now.
no, it's just.
Oh, it's gonna be at Alabama.
Yeah, we took it down.
There was a.
It was a 4-way. It's gonna be again.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. The invocation this evening will be done by Councilperson Tucker, and the pledge of allegiance will be given by Councilperson Justice.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for allowing us to assemble here this afternoon, this evening, and to do the work of the city. We ask that you bless each and every one of us as we go through planning for the city. These and all blessings we ask in your son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Councilmember Tucker.
Here.
Councilmember Justice.
Here.
Councilmember Gant.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Mayor Willis.
Here. You received in your packets a copy of the minutes from the council meeting held on May 1st, 2023. Any corrections to those minutes? There are no corrections, entertain a motion to approve. Take the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, motion and second, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? So those minutes have been approved. Under new business, award low bid for the North Bridge Street Culvert Sidewalk Project, Alexander Seal Coating and Striping Incorporated. Is there a motion to move forward? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So that too has been granted. Okay, what do you want to do about item 2, ordinance 2023, an ordinance for DNX 5.96 acres of real property? Do you want to carry that over so we can get a little more detail?
I think we need to carry it over for detail. I have no problem with it, other than the fact that, and I'd like the attorney's opinion on this. If we go to annexing something, what precedents are we setting if somebody comes to us in the future and wants to leave the city? Does that put us in a negative situation where they can say, well, if we say no at that point, or they can come back and say, well, you let this person do it, you're treating me differently than.
So they would have to prove that you're treating them in an arbitrary and capricious manner for them to challenge any council decision on the boundaries. So you'll have a lot of leeway. So it's a case you more than likely will win. They're gonna have to prove that you are actually prejudicial to them personally, to challenge any sort of action in the future. So if you did de-annex, I don't know that you set a precedence one way or another, Especially given the circumstance where this building is crossing two different jurisdictional lines. I don't know how often we're gonna run into that. So I think you're okay there, but obviously it's something that you guys can consider.
We'll be looking at that a little more.
Would you like to have the time to research this?
Absolutely, yeah, I'll research whatever you'd like me to, sure.
I have another question while we're talking about this. Are there some rules and regulations that we can adjust within the city that would help them and not put us in a precarious situation down the line?
We're, from the building standpoint, building department standpoint, we are, looking into our subdivision regulations, in several different manners, and we can add that as part of that process. Justin and I had talked about an administrative process similar to what we're talking about, what the county has, but there's pros and cons to all that.
Right.
So, again, you go to changing our ordinances and our codes, it opens a can of worms to do a lot of things. So we've talked about this for a couple of years now, and a lot of these things are I'm starting to understand better on what we do need to change, but there are some things that we can change to help these types of situations, and we're working on it. I can't give a time frame on when that'll be, but we were working on it. Justin, you
So
want to add?
the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. I mean, we could mimic more of what the county has and do administrative plat approvals. That would take it out of the planning commission hands in some ways when it's a certain criteria. What we don't want to happen is people take advantage of that and all we're doing is administrative plat approvals.
That's right.
Right? So we want to be thoughtful about it. And our situation is a little bit different from the county. We're in a city, an urban area. A lot of the counties are rural, things that make sense in the rural areas don't make sense in the urban. We just want to make sure we match it up for
The other layer that we have is the zoning aspect of it that adds a whole other complication to it.
Yeah, so the answer is yes, but we have not come up with a game plan just yet. More than happy to research that and kind of push on it more too.
Could there be something that only applies to when there's property that crosses lines like this? And then that way you're probably never gonna see that situation again. If you do, it's gonna be very rare.
We might actually have that. I need to look at our PUD, but our PUD might cover a situation like that. I haven't thought about that yet.
Has there been any consideration of annexing what's in the county into the city?
I think Mr. Sessions has thought about that.
Yeah, we talked about that, in our meetings. Part of it is the HOA, that parcel up there. I think something that has to do with that development. There's some ties to that
County
development
subdivision already.
involved anyways.
Yeah, so
There's
some of it's already a county subdivision.
There's a drainage easement that Aldott has through it and some other complications the annexation would cause more complications that way too. So it ain't one solution.
Mr. Sessions,
Yes,
how did you get into this situation?
I inherited it.
I know you're a smart man. I think you buy into something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a motion to
Carry this over.
kind of hold this off until we can do further research.
So, man,
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? All in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Anyone opposed? So we'll carry this over. Okay, and then item 3, permission to install picnic equipment splash pad not to exceed blank.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and bring up tonight.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Justice?
Yes.
Councilmember Gant?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Willis?
Yes. Rules having been suspended, we can take this item 3 up for discussion or entertain a motion to move forward.
I entertain the motion that we move forward with the picnic equipment for the splash pad not to exceed $35,000.
Okay, that's Mr. Tucker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so that too has been, permission has been granted. And item 4, permission to install a stop sign that we've taken down 2 or 3 times. Back on Towson Street, Alabama Street intersection.
I make a second reading.
There was that?
I make the motion.
Okay, we got the motion,
That like the second to read stuff.
reinstallation.
I stopped there.
We have a motion and we have a second to reinstall the stop sign. Any discussion?
When was it taken down?
About,
Late at night one night. No, it was council action taken probably a year and a half ago, 2 years, something like that.
I think I'm supposed to.
yeah.
Put one back
That's
up
just not
there.
by habit, because I'm so used to it. I grew up there. It's just-
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone object? Okay, so this permission has been granted. Okay. Motion to adjourn, someone, okay.